second video using an array, right, a layout to understand these fraction equations. Here we're finding a half of 32. Well, the array I'm going to use is going to give me 32 tiles, so we're using a 4 by 8 tile setup. Now half of that would fill in half of the grid. I can cut in this way, 4 by 4, or 2 by 8. Either way I have half of this overall grid, and that's 16 pieces. A fourth of 32, well, we know what a half is. That's 16, and a fourth is a half of a half, so that's got to be 8, right? A fourth is a half of a half, and 8's half of 16, so that matches. And we could see it if I filled in these 8 pieces right here, right? This little rectangle. If I multiplied that area by 4, I would fill up the whole space. Here's 1, 2, 3, and 4. So that's a fourth. Now 2/8 of 32. So far, I've been finding 1/4 and 1/2. Now I all of a sudden have to find 2/8. Well, I'm going to find 1/8 first, right? What do I know about an eighth? Well, an eighth is smaller than a fourth. In fact, it's half of a fourth. So 1/8 is just going to fill up 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces, right? Now a fourth is twice as big. It fill up 8. Now we have an eighth, so it's got to fill up even half of that. Well, that's an eighth. 1, 2, 3, 4. Fits into the whole grid 8 times. So what's 2/8? Well, it's going to be 2 of them, right? We have 1/8. 2/8 is another one. So that's 4 and 8. So that's 8 out of 32, and that makes sense. This tells me that 1/4 has to be the same thing as 2/8, because when you take 2/8 of 32, you get the same thing as taking 1/4 of 32. So those are equal. Keep going here. Now we have to find 3/4 of 32. Sounds challenging, but we know what 1/4 is. That's got to be these 8 pieces right here. Using a different color here. Right, these 8 pieces is 1/4. 5, 6, 7, 8. So 3/4 takes 2/4, and then adds another fourth. We get 3/4. Every fourth is 8 pieces, so 3/4 has to be 24 pieces. Oops, 24. And we keep going with this. Well, what about a half of 16? What's that going to match to? Well, if I rip this array in half, here we have 16 pieces. Half of them will be these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 pieces. So out of this 4 by 4 array, or 16, a half of them will be 8 pieces. And notice we're getting the same thing as we did here and here. Those must be the same, right? Because a fourth of 32 is the same thing as a half of 16. I'll just quickly say that what's happening there is, or one way to think about what's happening is that you take 32 and divide it by 2 to get 16. You take a fourth, you multiply it by 2 and get a half. Divide by 2, multiply by 2, nothing's really changing. Same thing here. Since 32 divided by 2 is 16 and 1/8 is 1/4, so 1/4 times 2 gives me a half, I'm just dividing and multiplying by 2. That's for any number, right? If I take 5, I multiply it by 2 and then divide it by 2, I get 5. If I take 6 and divide it by 2 and multiply it by 2, I get 6. So nothing will change if I divide and multiply by 2, and that's all that's happening across expressions here. Last we have a fourth of 8. Right? What if I had these 8 pieces here? Well, a fourth of that, these 2 by 4 pieces, or 8 pieces, would be these 1, 2 pieces. They fit into the array 4 times, and that's what a fourth means. So a fourth of 8 has to equal 2. Alright, hope this helped.